Today I'm going to show you an action thriller film titled The Killer's Games. Be ready for spoilers ahead. The film starts at an opera house in Budapest, where hitman Joe poses as a regular audience member while sneakily watching his target and the bodyguards protecting him. Once the show commences and everyone takes their seats, Joe stealthily makes his way upstairs. As soon as a bodyguard notices a shoe hidden behind a curtain and investigates, Joe ambushes him, kills him with a knife, and conceals the body behind the curtain. Joe continues through the hallway, taking out more bodyguards with a gun before reaching his target at the balcony. Realizing the gravity of the matter, the target offers Joe triple his current payment to spare him, but Joe refuses and shoots him in the head, ordering the target's date to stay quiet, forcing her to make a hasty escape. The bodyguard suddenly notices the fleeing woman and tries to contact his boss. When there's no response, he rushes to investigate and find him already dead. On his way out, Joe experiences a sudden headache and dizziness. The security team spots the security guard with a gun and mistakes him for killing the VIP individual, prompting them to open fire. The guard shoots one officer while another calls for backup. The bodyguard, concealed within the balcony, shoots an officer through the door as he pursues him. Suddenly, the theater lights come back on as the bodyguard jumps off the balcony, landing on the stage. Panic ensues among the dancers and audience, and they begin to flee. An officer from the balcony shoots at the bodyguard from a distance, killing him. Amidst the chaos, the crowd knocks down a leading actor named Maze, causing her to drop her phone and suffer injuries to her hand and foot. Joe notices her and helps her up and retrieves her phone, guiding her outside. As he places her down, a sudden surge of headaches overwhelms him, prompting him to wait for Maze to become distracted and disappear. Once home, Joe realizes he still has Maze's phone. He takes some medication and goes to bed. The next day, Joe visits a doctor who runs tests and suspects Joe might be suffering from the long-term effects of head trauma. While waiting for the test results, the doctor advises Joe to consider a new line of work. Joe later meets his handler and close friend, V, who also suggests he take a vacation and find someone special. After hesitating, Joe visits Maze's dance studio to return her phone. Grateful, Maze flirts with Joe and gives him her number. However, he throws the number away at first, but quickly retrieves it after giving it a second thought. That evening, Joe awkwardly texts Maze, and they plan a date. They enjoy a dinner together, though Joe doesn't reveal his true occupation. Over the following days, Joe juggles his time between dating Maze and continuing his mercenary missions in various locations in Europe, France, Romania, Austria, and Switzerland. His relationship with Maze deepens, and they start spending nights together. Sadly, Joe's headaches persist, and the medication is becoming less effective. When the test results finally come in, the doctor delivers devastating and life-altering news to Joe. He has a neurodegenerative brain disorder with no cure, leaving him with only 3 months to live. Joe, who is in shock, declines the doctor's offer of palliative care and therapy. Instead, he goes home and dives into online research about his condition. He finds countless videos of people struggling to control their limbs, and all sources confirm that there's no hope for a cure. Desperate, Joe contemplates ending his life with a gun, but thoughts of Maze stop him. Joe then opens a hidden safe in the floor, taking out all his money before gathering up his weapons and disposing of them in the river. The next day, he meets with V and proposes paying $2 million for a contract on his own life. He would end things himself, but doing so would void his life insurance policy, and he wants Maze to receive the money. However, V refuses to arrange a contract for his best friend regardless of the amount offered. Joe then turns to Antoinette, a former assassin turned handler, whose bodyguard is Max, a notoriously ruthless killer. Antoinette holds a grudge against Joe for killing her father who had been his mentor. Thrilled at the chance for revenge, she agrees to place a contract on Joe's life. Since Joe has a few final matters to settle, he asks her to activate the mission at midnight. After Joe leaves, Antoinette opens the Assassin app to find a hitman for the job. She first contacts Lev Vital, who is in Switzerland finishing another contract. He declines, saying that $2 million isn't worth the trouble. Next, Antoinette sends the contract to Go Yang and his gang, who are at a karaoke bar in Prague. After camouflaging as regular workers, they swiftly take down their targets at the bar with seamless teamwork. Go Yang eagerly accepts Joe's contract. As a backup plan, Antoinette also assigns the mission to the Longo brothers, who are engrossed in a brutal kill that involves tying a man to their bikes and tearing him apart. That night, Joe meets with Maze, unaware that Max is tailing them. Joe breaks up with her, and she gives him a final kiss before leaving in tears. Afterward, Joe heads home and starts drinking. He decides to come clean with Maze by recording a message for her, revealing everything. He intends for it to be delivered after his death but accidentally sends it right away. As Maze listens to the message, Joe receives a call from the doctor with shocking news. His test results were mixed up with another patient's, and Joe isn't dying at all. In fact, he's in perfect health and could live a long life. With only 5 minutes left before the contract activates at midnight, Joe prepares a trap. Soon, Go Young and his gang arrive and use cigarette smoke to detect the laser sensors at the entrance, skillfully bypassing them. They advance further inside while Joe, hidden, announces that he's canceling the contract. However, Go Young mocks Joe, insisting that he must honor the contract. One of the gang members follows Joe's voice to a bathroom, where Joe is lying in wait. Despite the gang member's martial arts skills, Joe overpowers him and throws him through a brick wall. Another assassin attacks Joe with an axe, slashing his back, but Joe manages to push her onto the broken glass and drags her throat across the shards, killing her. The previous gang member, enraged, attacks Joe, but he mercilessly breaks his leg and throws him through the glass. Another gang member attacks Joe with a sword, and after exchanging a few blows, Joe grabs the man's arm, breaks it, and disarms him before finishing him off by slamming him into a column. The last remaining gang member charges at Joe, wielding 2 large blades, and after a series of missed strikes, she manages to stab Joe in the shoulder. Despite the injury, Joe keeps fighting, delivering a powerful punch that knocks out several of her teeth. Only Go Young remains. Go Young throws a knife at Joe's leg, but Joe retaliates by killing Go Young with a knife in the forehead. After lighting a cigarette as a final gesture of farewell to Go Young, Joe leaves the apartment and activates a trap, blowing up his home. The explosion kills the woman with the missing teeth, propelling her body through the window and causing the gang's car to explode as well. Joe uses Go Young's phone to call Antoinette, telling her that he's canceling the contract and she can keep the money. Antoinette, furious and still seeking vengeance for her father, announces that she will double the bounty. As the sound of approaching motorcycles grows louder, Joe enters an abandoned building, only to be surrounded by the Longo brothers, who attack him using stunts with their bikes. Joe manages to dodge a few attacks, but most of their strikes knock him down. Fortunately, he finds a pipe nearby, and when one of the brothers charges at him again, Joe strikes him with a pipe, knocking him off the bike and crushing his head underfoot. The remaining brother, enraged, speeds up, but Joe kicks the front wheel of the bike, sending him flying. With both brothers defeated, Joe steals one of their bikes to escape. Meanwhile, Antoinette escalates the mission by offering it to Europe's top hitman Lev Vital, who's still in Switzerland enjoying himself. He spots the increased reward of $4 million and finally accepts the job. In Scotland, the Mackenzie brothers also take on the mission, celebrating by smashing beer bottles over each other's heads. In a gritty club in England, a group of women known as the Party Girls pose as dancers, then take out all the clients using weapons cleverly concealed in their skimpy outfits. In Spain, a gang of criminals preparing drugs for sale is ambushed by Bash, who uses a mix of dance moves and the blades hidden in his boots to dispatch the men with lethal precision. Meanwhile, Joe reunites with V, who attends to his injuries. Since V is only a handler, he lacks weapons but offers Joe some leftover explosives from a previous job. V's wife also steps in to help, giving Joe a thorough massage that includes cracking his neck. This surprisingly relieves Joe's headaches, dizziness and double vision. Shortly afterward, Lev Vital arrives in Budapest, and Antoinette provides him with all the information she has on Joe, including Maze's location. She also sends her cousin Money to pick up Lev Vital. Money is irritating and not particularly bright, but Antoinette had promised her uncle that she would train him as a hitman. The duo heads to Maze's building and ambushes her as she leaves. Maze quickly takes down Money with a kick, but Lev Vital knocks her out with a punch and kidnaps her. The following morning, Joe travels to an old castle in the countryside, and Max quickly learns of his location. This information is shared with all the hired hitmen who race to the castle. However, this move is part of a plan. V intentionally leaked Joe's location to lure the assassins into a trap. Joe prepares all his weapons, and when the Mackenzie brothers arrive at the castle, Joe greets them with a grenade before stepping out to engage in combat. Initially, Joe holds his own against one brother, but when they team up, they manage to overpower him, shoving him into a suit of armor. Joe takes the gauntlet from the armor, utilizing the metal to deliver more powerful punches. Despite this advantage, the brothers' teamwork maintains their superiority. During a brief argument between the brothers, Joe pulls a rope, dropping a chandelier that pins one of the brothers down, pushing him into a deer head and impaling him. Joe then takes a piece of antler and uses it to fight the remaining brother, exchanging blows before finally stabbing him to death. At that moment, the party girls burst in with guns blazing, forcing Joe to use the deceased brother's body as a shield while retreating into another room. The girls toss a grenade, but Joe dodges it, grabbing the dead man's gun to fire back but soon runs out of bullets. One of the girls attempts to approach him only to step on a trap, which explodes and knocks her down. Joe quickly drags her body to a corner, activates her grenades, and hurls her toward the other assassin, killing them both in the ensuing blast. Bash is waiting for him on the other side, quickly disarming Joe and putting on earbuds, letting music guide his movements. They engage in a fierce hand-to-hand battle, and after exchanging blows across the room, Joe causes Bash to lose his earbuds, prompting both of them to grab swords for the next round. After a few minutes, Joe disarms Bash, who finds a gun and opens fire. Joe hides behind a table, activating a trap that blows up Bash, leaving only his boots behind. When Lev Vital arrives outside and spots the hitmen's vehicles, he quickly realizes that it's a trap. He instructs Money to watch over Maze while he checks things out. Once Lev Vital has left, Maze manipulates Money into allowing her to stretch her legs before pretending to fall and using a branch to knock him out. Meanwhile, Lev Vital contacts Joe using Maze's phone, offering to release her if Joe surrenders. Their conversation is cut short when Max arrives with a heavily armed team. They sweep through the castle, carefully avoiding traps. Joe lurks in the shadows and triggers an explosion that wipes out half the team. Joe then stealthily takes down a soldier, seizes his gun, and uses it to eliminate the remaining guards before slipping out through a back exit. Lev Vital is waiting for him in the garden, forcing Joe to drop his weapon. Just as they are about to negotiate, Maze comes out driving Money's car and runs over Lev Vital. She and Joe swiftly flee while Max's remaining men attempt to shoot them but fail. While on the road, Maze reveals to Joe that she's pregnant and they agree to work through their future together. However, Maze suddenly loses consciousness, revealing a bullet wound in her neck. Joe abandons the car, carrying Maze to the nearest building, which turns out to be a church. Fortunately, the bullet only grazed her and she soon regains consciousness. Overcome with relief, Joe proposes and Maze accepts. Despite their lack of marriage witnesses, the priest agrees to perform the ceremony if they go through confession. Hearing Joe's confessions about his life as a hitman horrifies the priest, but after Joe pleads for a second chance to be a better man and father, the priest accepts as long as he promises to retire. They begin a humble ceremony with Joe using a grenade pin as a makeshift ring. Their wedding is interrupted when Lev Vital barges in and fatally shoots the priest. Joe throws a grenade into the church, filling it with smoke, allowing him and Maze to escape with the injured priest. As Lev Vital wrestles with a soldier, Max tosses another explosive, causing a scaffolding to collapse on Lev Vital, trapping him. Max then searches through the burning church, eliminating his final injured man. Joe attempts to surprise him from behind, leading to a tense standoff, only to discover that he's out of bullets. Max gloats over his victory, but before he can act, Maze shoots him in the head. Meanwhile, Antoinette prepares to flee the country, but V arrives, confronting her about breaking the rules just like her father. He executes her with a shot to the head. Later, Joe and Maze have a proper wedding ceremony with the now recovered priest and their friends in attendance. Although Joe is ready to embrace his peaceful life, Maze notes that raising a child is costly and suggests that he might take on a few more jobs. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.